and welcome to the Wellness with Juanita podcast. I'm your host, Juanita Nagai, an American living in Japan for 20 years. I've gone through some massive life changes and crises in my 20 years here. At its bleakest, I felt very isolated, alone, and helpless in the face of what was happening. I relied on alcohol and cigarettes to get through it the best I knew how, which worked until it didn't, and everything fell apart. I made it through with a little help from my friends, a fledgling mindfulness practice, and learning how to become my own strongest ally. I quit drinking and smoking, worked my way through my grief, found ways to forgive, created new connections, and started a regular exercise, meditation, and self-care routine. I've also become a national board certified health and wellness coach along the way, and developed a desire and passion to help others on their own personal journeys. This podcast is all about change, growth, healing yourself, learning how to get back up after life kicks you down, and exploring mindfulness and self-compassion as incredible tools available to each and every one of us to do just that. Hello, and welcome to the Wellness with Juanita podcast. I'm your host, Juanita Nagai. Happy New Year. Happy 2026. Akemashite omedetou gozaimasu to all of my listeners in Japan. Today, I would like to talk about trust. That is my one word for the year. At the end of last year, it really just struck me how fitting it was in general. I think in my last podcast, I may have spoke of this a little bit, but right at the end of the year, the universe blessed me with a new contract job with a company based out of the United States doing coaching work, health and wellness coaching work with global clients in Asia. And it was such a godsend, if you believe in God, or a blessing from the universe, as I choose to think of it. And it really felt like the epitome of this idea of trusting in an unfolding. And as I look to the new year that has just begun, and I chose trust as that word, I'm challenging myself to carry that faith in myself, in the universe, in the flow and the dance that we are doing together in my brief, finite time here, that what is meant for me is not going to miss me, that I am on the right path, that I know that I am on my path, and I can feel that in every cell of my body these days. And so I need to just keep doing the work, keep doing the things that I know that are very nourishing and supportive to me and for my own self, because that supports me in the work that I am trying to do with others and in the world and how I want to live my life in general. So trust is this overarching theme for this new year looking forward, but there are so many other aspects of it that are coming up or have been coming up in my life lately that is just another layer of synchronicity or clicking into place that really lets me know how on the right track I am, because I've realized that it's not simply or is not only trusting in myself and in the universe and in our flow and in our intricate dance working out in general, but it's also in trusting in so many different aspects of the process. And I was really struck also at the end of last year. The holidays are a sentimental and kind of magical, emotional time for me in general. That's when I lost my mom. So there's that bittersweet grief mixed in with nostalgia and memories and seeing the kind of next iteration of all of that happening as I continue on some of the magic that she taught me and create it with my children and just all of these different emotions, the love and the light and the sitting in front of the Christmas tree with the candles lit. It's a bittersweet, and it's a sensitive and emotional time of the year. So I am very aware of that. And it's not a big surprise that the emotions were flowing rather freely, mostly with this kind of just heartfelt, what's the word? Just heartfelt, just really feeling the connection to my mom, feeling the magic and the joy and the wonder of the holidays, deep, deep gratitude and appreciation that I am now living the kind of life that allows me to enjoy it and really create those memories with my children, that I have the time and the energy and the spaciousness to do all of that and to appreciate it. But in all these other little areas of my life, the thing that's coming up for me is watching TV or movies and just really feeling so open-hearted. I ended up rewatching Forrest Gump before Christmas, or maybe after Christmas, maybe in the in-between between Christmas and New Year's, that kind of no man's hallowed ground of what day is it that happens at the end of the year and the beginning of the new. But I watched Forrest Gump again, and that is such a wonderful movie just in general, but it came out when I was in high school, and it was really profound and beautiful, and it almost felt like a kind of important part of my growing up, because of the time that it was released. And my girlfriends and I in high school even made our own little versions of various scenes from Forrest Gump, which was very entertaining. And I hope someone has that video out there somewhere. But I was so moved, and I was almost overwhelmed with the emotion, and like the tears were coming to my eyes so much. I was thinking to myself, how does anyone ever watch this movie without just bawling through all of it? So I say that knowing that I watched it several times without crying at everything. And also with that disclaimer that I understand, and I am very aware of the fact that the holidays and Christmas and December are a very emotional time for me. But this was something more than even that. And I was listening to some pre-recorded talks through different mindfulness and Buddhist teacher websites and programs and things, and listening to the speakers talk in those as well. There was this deep welling of tenderness and emotions, and yes, tears, but almost a kind of full body tingling. And this happened more than once. This was happening repeatedly throughout December and throughout that quieter wintering time at the end of the year that really invites stillness and reflection. And I realize that this is a next level or a new manifestation or a new phase of the process of softening and open-heartedness that I have really been on or undergoing since I started all of this work, since I started down the path of exploring mindfulness and self-compassion and different Buddhist teachings and psychology and things like that. I shared this story in my December newsletter, but there is a story that I've heard numerous times, actually. I think the first time I really remember hearing it was in the Mindful Self-Compassion course that I took a couple summers ago. But in the Jewish tradition, there is a story by some famous rabbi that says we should take the teachings, so if that's the Torah or the teachings, the lessons, the learnings that we gather throughout our lives, and we should place them on the heart. And one of his students asked, why on the heart? Shouldn't we place them in the heart, and the rabbi's answer was that we should place them on the heart so that when not if, but when it breaks, they will all fall in. And that just really struck me deeply and really resonated so strongly, because I've certainly had my share of heartbreak and tragedy, and I've spoken about it at length. And so I feel like my breaking open happened before I had a lot of the wisdom or a lot of the learnings, a lot of the teaching. My heartbreak is what led me to the path of wisdom and learning and exploring myself. And so it's almost like my heart was broken open, and then I tried to deal with it with all of these unhealthy, unskillful ways. I just sunk into the depths of numbing as best I could for the first couple of years after my mom's death. And so I kind of had this like scabby bridge or something over the heartbreak and the open wound. And slowly, as I have explored and I have gone my path and I have started doing these practices over the years, they have started to come in and to fall in. And every time my heart has been broken and opened up again after, they are finding their way in and they're finding their way home. And it's not like an instantaneous, sudden realization or epiphany. I don't think that real change happens that way. It's great storytelling. It's wonderful to put in books and movies and TV shows. But very, very rarely do us real humans, mere mortals, have a lightning bolt change of heart and change of life. This is why I do what I do. It's hard work, and it takes consistent action and consistent intentional steps to keep doing the work, so that eventually, years later, it does have its effect. And that was kind of a backwards way of saying that is what has come to me, that I was trusting in the unfolding of who I am becoming, who I am meant to become, way back when I first started taking the first steps, when I reached out to my friend, or when I started reading books, or when I started listening to podcasts, when I first started experimenting with meditation. Those were the first steps that have continued to kind of snowball and go on as my path has unfolded. And now it's encompassing so many other things. But all of those small choices and all of those small actions are what have built up to now, 6 years later, me noticing, me really feeling the open-heartedness, really feeling the joy and the contentment and the gratitude of my daily life. And it's difficult to talk about that. I think that there are societal or cultural or something barriers around sharing our joy. Truly, I think in the age of social media, people don't want to brag or show off, or people only present a kind of fake, stage, perfected, photoshopped version of their lives. And it's really hard to share just honest, true joyfulness or happiness, like this is how I feel, without feeling guilty that there are so many people that don't feel that, or worrying that it's showing off or it seems inauthentic or something. So yeah, maybe there's something there for me to still kind of work out in my own head and in my own mind how to articulate that or how to share that, because I think it's important that people see and understand, though, for me, for my process, I did not start in a good place. Things were bleak. I was not okay. I'm understanding more and more that the desperation of my situation was probably more than anything what led me to truly reach out and to truly start to make the changes. I remember very clearly, very close to this exact spot actually, the moment when I realized that I was the only one that was going to be able to make me happy, that I needed to stop waiting around for other people to get it, or other people to be whatever it is that I wanted them to be. I needed to stop blaming other people and other things and life itself, like whatever situation and circumstances I found myself in. It did feel like a bit of a lightning or a light bulb moment of just, man, here you are 40 and it took you a really long time to get here. But I can recognize even now that that is that little judging mind, that little critic being like, well, aren't you an idiot for it taking so long? But it came, and it did set me, and it inspired me to, I think at that time, it inspired me to really do the free online mindfulness-based stress reduction course that I had found. And, I thought, well, if you are the one that is responsible for your happiness and you have been exploring all of these actual practices and strategies and techniques that you can try, that all of these people that are much wiser than you have said, and there's thousands of years of history to back it up, that things like meditation and yoga and mindfulness in general are beneficial for you, then put your money where your mouth is and actually start doing it. And so that was a light bulb moment, but the actual doing took a long time. And again, there was that trust, that decision of, okay, I am going to try this. I'm going to find a way. And it was difficult. I had a young daughter, and I had a family, and I had a full-time job. But I sat down and I sketched out where in my week I could do the readings and where I could do the practices. And, I did yoga sometimes in the next room next to the TV, and just told my husband and daughter, just ignore me. Mommy's just over here doing her thing. Not ideal, but it worked. I used my phone up in my bedroom and did it sometimes that way. But I found a way. It wasn't perfect. I'm sure I did not practice every day. I'm sure I didn't do it exactly the way that I was supposed to do it. But the point is, I just trusted that how I wanted to feel and how I wanted to be and how I wanted to live my life was gonna be so much better than where I was and how I was feeling then. And that has proven to be the case thus far, and this 6 years down my path. And maybe it takes something like the end of one year and the beginning of the new, that period of natural self-reflection, or your birthday or whatever. There's these different kind of natural rhythms in our lives and in our calendar where we kind of pause and reflect and think about where we were and where we still want to go, but also where we are right now is so important. And that is another reason that I really do the work that I do and want to help others realize how much is there in simply checking in with ourselves and being present with our current situation or even sensation, right? Taking a deep breath and just noticing what is happening. What is your experience? What are you noticing right now? Because It's beneficial for so many very different reasons, but especially right now with how fast-paced and frantic our world is. We are not learning how to trust ourselves, and we are not learning how to be present with what is and what is in our moment. We are not learning how to have compassion for ourselves and others. I think this explains a lot with the state of the world in the year 2026. We are just pushed and pulled, and it's like this frantic pace. And now there's social media, and there's just so much out there. Even me thinking about which talks or which speakers or which groups or which websites, all of these great things that I want to do. Like, there's just too much. I have to pick and choose. I have to be very intentional with my time because I also only have 24 hours in the day. And it's just, there's just so much out there. It is literally overwhelming. And our brains are changing into wanting that quick fix and that dopamine hit, you know? So we're tired and we go for caffeine and we drink coffee and Red Bull and energy drinks. And, you know, we feel a little down. So we just pick up our phones and we scroll, or we eat some chocolate, or we really don't ever stop and pause and learn how to simply be with ourselves. Mind, body, spiritually, we just are always pulled in a million different directions. And so we live our lives that way for a long time. For a lot of us, for a long time, it's just what we've always done. It's what we have kind of evolved and grown into. You know, if you're my age or older, we remember what the world was like before the internet or before smartphones. And it was very, very different. I think there was a lot more time to just, for example, be bored, for one thing. As a child, I remember being really bored, but that was really great because it forced me to be creative and imaginative and learn how to entertain myself and read books and build forts. And, you know, there was only like 3 TV channels. And so I didn't have screen time. It's not that my parents didn't allow it. There was just nothing to watch because it was boring. It was like golf all weekend. So not to sound like an old person too much here, but the way the world has just evolved, it's like we have also just kind of slowly evolved to keep up with that or something. I do feel like there's going to be a tidal wave changing, even with things like social media. I feel like we are starting to turn the corner. Australia has banned social media for children under 16, which I think is an amazing idea. And I think that even as adults, a lot of my friends are not on social media anymore, or they've changed down to like just the one platform or something, which is great. Social media is not where we should be living our lives, but it's complicated because it is also what the world has become. And it is a way for me as a English speaking foreign woman living in Japan to feel connected to other similar communities with Facebook groups and things like that. So it's not all bad, but we need to be intentional about how we use it, and we need to be intentional about what we want in our lives in general. And so what I'm trying to get to is that in the same way that we just immediately go for the quick fix, we go for the dopamine hit from the like on our Facebook page or our Instagram, we drink the coffee, we go to the phone, we veg out, we binge watch, all of these things. I'm not saying that they're necessarily bad, but it just becomes so habitual and so automatic and so reactive. And I don't think it's what the majority of us actually want. We want to feel happy, and we want to feel content, and we want to feel spacious and free, and like we have enough time to do the things that are important to us and spend it with the people that we care the most about, instead of just running on the hamster wheel that is modern day life. I know that we can still be a part of modern day life, but maybe slide off to the side of the hamster wheel a little bit more if we really allow ourselves to slow down and to check in with what we are feeling, what our experience is, whether it's mental or physical, and what we really want out of life, who we want to be. And from there, once we articulate what our particular configuration of that ideal self is, then we can start to see how and where we can take the steps to put that plan into action, and realize and recognize that it doesn't happen overnight, and that we really need to keep that version, that ideal vision of ourselves in our hearts, but also front of mind, to remind us every day, okay, do I want to drink the Red Bull, or do I want to not? And also spend 5 minutes each morning meditating or something. Just random example here, but we sacrifice our actual happiness and our actual health and longevity and inner peace for instant gratification. I don't think this is our fault. I think this is part of the world that we live in now, but kind of pulling ourselves out of that hamster wheel and out of that social media pit and the doom scrolling and even falling into despair watching or hearing the news, right? We can pop out of all of that if we give ourselves a moment to ourselves. And slowly over time, that moment or that breath to ourselves can evolve and change into any number of infinite possibilities. And it can be so beautiful, and it will feel so much better than running on that hamster wheel or staying stuck in the thought patterns or the mental stories that we tell ourselves. There's just a world of possibility available to each and every one of us if we're able to just pause and come back home to this one here, to this heart, to this open heart that is truly loving awareness at its essence. That is what all of our experience is held in when we pause and breathe and come back to it. That is what you are. We are all made of stardust. And I also understand how difficult it can be to get started on that. I fully grok how sometimes it really takes being pushed over the edge or pushed to your limit in order to seek the changes, to really figure out the way to say, I don't want to live like this anymore. I'm at the end of my rope. I'm at the end here. I cannot go on like this anymore. But even if we're not there, even if we're just kind of feeling overwhelmed or burnt out or worn down or just feeling the grind of modern day life, there's still so much that we can do for ourselves if we start to give ourselves those deep breaths, those pauses, those little moments. Even if you wake up every morning and put your hand on your heart and take 3 deep breaths, that can be a game changer. Put your hand on your heart, take the 3 deep breaths, and think of an intention or something you want to remember throughout the day, even if you don't actually remember it. Just planting a seed in your heart and trusting that it's there and it's going to do its thing or not do anything at all. Or maybe one day, 6 years later, you will see how it was actually the beginning of a change of heart or a change of mind or a change of life, a change of way of living. This trusting and unfolding is so difficult. It can be so easy to dismiss it and to just say, what's the point? It's not actually doing anything. Again, because we live in this instant gratification world. But it really does make a difference. And so I really do encourage all of you to think about, because it is January, because it is the beginning of a new year, think about what seeds you want to plant. Think about what you would like to feel like at the end of this year. Maybe it's more confident, maybe it's calmer, maybe it's more peaceful or relaxed, a better parent. Think about your intentions for this new year. If you'd like, you can encapsulate it into one word, as I have done. I enjoy that practice very much. If you like the more traditional New Year's resolution, knock yourself out. There are so many different ways that you can approach this. You can create a vision board. From that encapsulation, then perhaps think of what are some first steps, very small baby steps that I could try and do. What are some things that I can put on my planner as goals for myself that I would like to try and do, and see how that unfolds throughout the coming year. If you are open and curious about things like meditation or mindfulness, I will leave as my takeaway today the completely free 40-day meditation beginner series that I first did, that is led by Jack Kornfield and Tara Brach, two people that have become my teachers over the years. But it's a really great way to immerse yourself into it in very small bite-sized pieces. I think it's like 5, maybe 10 minutes a day. Maybe it's 5 minutes of instruction and then 5 minutes of practice. It's what got me going. It was a really wonderful way to ease into the practice without just trying to do it all on my own with a timer, which I also experimented with. But that is today's takeaway. I will leave the link to that in the show notes. It's completely free. There's nothing to lose. You can just try it out. I would encourage you to think about where you have 5 or 10 minutes every day that you can devote to it. Decide that beforehand and don't just say, I'll get to it when I can, because then you never will. So that's my bit of coachy wisdom for today's episode. And if you are looking for support or help or guidance along the way with even creating what your intention or what your vision or what your one word is, or those first steps, I am always happy to hop on a discovery call and see what things would be like if we work together. So you can reach out to me via email or my social media account DMs. I thank you so much for listening today. If you've made it this far, I appreciate all of the support that I'm getting from my community, and it's really validating to know that I am on the right path. So until next time, thank you so much and take care.